on the phone Laura Clawson, labor reporter at the dailykos at dailykos.com. Laura, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, give me a little bit of background on this Indiana attack on unions. I know it was happening last year when Scott Walker was attacking unions in Wisconsin, and it was beat back. But what's happened since then?
Basically, what happened is last year, Indiana Democrats fled the state to avoid giving Republicans a quorum that they needed to pass this bill. Republicans came back this year to their new legislative session saying this is our top priority. And in the meantime, they had passed a bill saying that if Democrats flee the state, they get fined $1,000 a day.
Nice work on their part. And so what exactly is the bill?
It's what's called a right to work bill, which is a terrible name. I mean, it's one of these Republicans' names that they come up with things. Actually, what it says is that workers who don't want to belong to a union don't have to pay for their share of being represented. In other states, workers who don't want to belong to a union don't have to, even if they work in a union workplace, but they pay a share of the fees to cover the union's expenses in bargaining contracts, in representing them in grievances. In so-called right-to-work states, they don't even have to pay that, but the union continues to have to represent them. So
in other words,
they
won't pay full union dues, but they'll pay a small percentage, which, because of the union's bargaining power, comes back to them in spades anyways in terms of money.
Exactly.
And I guess benefits and worker protections. Mm-hmm. And what are the material effects of this? I mean, it's not just about freeing freeloaders essentially to get free representation in the workplace. What are the implications of these so-called right-to-work laws?
Well, so basically, it weakens unions in the state. It means that they have they're not getting the money that they need to represent workers. That means that they can't do other things that they would normally do. It means they're less likely to try to organize workers in the state. So overall, it weakens unions in the state that it's passed in, and that allows employers to drive down wages and working conditions for everyone.
Right. I mean, a piece that you put up on dailykos, I guess, over the weekend, stated a couple of different studies that showed that unionization drives dropped by 30% in the following 5 years of the passing of these legislations. Organizing wins fell by 46%. Wages drop. The portions of free riders ranges from 9 to 39%. In certain states. I mean, so this is really clearly an attempt to destroy unions, yeah?
Absolutely. And what Republicans say in trying to push these laws is, well, it might not be good for unions, but it's good for workers because it brings more jobs to the state. But that's actually not true either.
And I mean, there's a lot of data to show that companies just don't move to these states. I mean, or to the extent that they do, it would be illegal in some respects, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, you have cases where companies do move explicitly for that, but in most cases, what we see as far as companies moving into right-to-work states is that most of the right-to-work states are southern states that are warm and that have big, cheap immigrant populations. So studies, reasonable studies show that the reasons that companies move to these states, to the extent that they even do, which is far overblown, is for things not at all related to labor law.
And we should remind people, too, that this notion that somehow unions are forcing these people to engage in the union activities is, you're also, when you work for a corporation, you're also forced to engage in their activities. right? I mean,
Right.
you've got to go to. There's a lot of things that the corporation, when you work for them, makes them do. I mean, the idea that you're forced into a situation where you have more bargaining power as a worker is not terribly oppressive. So, what is the status? Last week, tell me what exactly what the state of play is in Indiana right now.
In Indiana, the Republicans have enough votes in the Senate. They don't need Democrats to even have a quorum. So they got it through a Senate committee, and it will be going to the full Senate for a vote. Interestingly, there was a Republican defection on that Senate committee. So Republicans are not united on this. In the House, Democrats can prevent a quorum, and they had been staying out. They hit the 3 days that they're allowed to stay out before they start getting fined $1,000 a day. And on Friday afternoon, a few Democrats sort of trickled back. So the question is, are there more Republican votes that can be flipped against it? Or the minute Democrats show back up so that they don't lose their houses to these fines, do Republicans just ram it through?
Wow. And how many Democrats are out? In other words, like, are we talking about $3,000 a day or $50,000 a day?
There are, I believe, 37 Democrats in the Indiana House, and oh no, there's 40. So,
We're talking
uh,
$40,000 a day.
right, right,
This is
but
not numbers that would be easy for people to raise on behalf of these people.
right. And then the thing is that all of the Democrats don't need to go back to allow Republicans a quorum. Only 7 of them need to go back. So, you really have to hold a united front to make this work.
And what's happening in terms of like protests against this? I mean, I remember last time Indiana was pretty active in terms of protests. Are people rebelling against this in any way?
Absolutely, people have been flooding the state house every day. The Republicans actually tried to limit the numbers of protesters that could be allowed in the state house and had to go back on that after some bad publicity. But,
Oh, why? Do you get
members.
bad publicity for limiting the size of protests in Indiana? You can do that here. You can actually, in New York City, you can actually cordon off an entire block and say it's a protest-free zone if the mayor or somebody really wealthy lives near there.
Yeah, it's funny how concerned Indiana Republicans were about this because they really tried to go for it. They said, lobbyists and everyone else can go in, but then only a certain number of the general public can go in. So
Right.
I think that was part of it. That they were saying that lobbyists could go in, but not, people who wanted to talk to their legislators.
They
So
should
the
look into income tests. You need to make a certain amount of money every year to actually show up. Now, one thing that's interesting about this, that's creating sort of an interesting dynamic, is my sense is that the Republicans are sort of are fast tracking this because there's an event coming up in February that may put more pressure on them.
Yeah, something you might have heard of called the Super Bowl is
Right.
going to be held in Indianapolis. And of course, NFL players are union members. They had their own labor dispute with a lockout this past year. So they've released a statement saying that they oppose this law. And, yes, so Indiana Republicans would prefer to have this over and done with before a bunch of very high profile union members arrive in town.
I'd love to see Tom Brady when he's down there playing with the Patriots in the Super Bowl this year, be able to speak out on this. But I guess it's still they've got to still win a couple more races. So I mean, games. So
Fingers crossed.
yes. So when will we know what the outcome is? I mean, it's basically this dynamic of how long can the Democrats stay out with this $1,000 fine over their heads?
Right, exactly. How long can they stay out, and is there any chance of enough Republicans flipping their votes to prevent the bill from going through? And if that chance exists, then it becomes a lot more worth it for Democrats to stay out for a few days while pressure gets put on those Republicans. If there's no chance, I mean, why are they going to rack up these fees to delay it a few more days?
How hard is it to reverse these type of bills? And do you think there's any potential in the future to do so?
It would require taking the Indiana, electing a Democratic majority in Indiana, which has not happened in quite some time. So it has happened in the past that a bill has been passed and then overturned, but just based on the electoral realities in Indiana right now, it's unlikely.
Are there any specific industries that are really pushing this, or is this just sort of like the Republicans are just want to be anti-labor?
This is really a Republican wish list. I mean, you don't actually see companies coming forward and saying we'd totally move jobs there if it was right to work. It doesn't happen.
Wow. All right. Laura Clawson from dailykos Labor, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks
Really
for having me.
appreciate it. We'll keep our eye on this as it continues.